today's Warzone video, we're going over the top 5 meta SMG loadouts you guys should be using after the Season 5 Reloaded update. There's a whole bunch of buffs and nerfs in that update, so I figured I'd go over a specific video for that update. If you enjoyed today's video, give it a like, subscribe with notifications turned on, and let's hop into this. All right, so for our first thing today, we're going to be taking a look at the CX-9. This is a gun that actually got a pretty solid buff here within the update in terms of mobility and its damage and everything like that. So this is a really effective meta SMG to use here in Warzone. I'm happy that this actually finally got a nice spot in there. So we have the first option here to go in the muzzle or the barrel. The barrel, you can get the integrated mono, so like suppressor slash barrel, but we're actually not going to do that because that's actually going to slow this gun down here. We're trying to make it super mobile. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to just go and add the regular mono suppressor here for the end of the gun, the sound suppression, of course, damage range. This is going to be a really solid option as opposed to going for that straight integral. I actually like this a little bit more so, and I'll explain why here in a little bit. After that, we're going to go straight to laser. We're going to go throw on the 5 MW laser here for hipfire accuracy and sprint to fire speed. This is a really good option here, and it makes you just very, very, accurate at that close range, especially with your, your hipfire. I really like that. Magazine section, we go for the 50 round mag here. Got to increase that magazine ammo capacity to the absolute max on this thing. It's got a super high rate of fire, so this is going to be super useful and definitely recommend it. After that, we're going to go to the stock section. We're actually going to go through on the CX-FR. This can increase our movement speed and ADS speed. You're going to lose a little bit of that aiming stability. So if you guys want to, you can throw on this stock here. This is going to be frame walking movement speed and ADS, but you're not going to get that sprint to fire benefit. But overall, this is good. Other, kind of alternative option to the CX-FR. My preference, though, is this stock, though. Now, for our last thing, we're going to go to the perk section. We're going to go through on sleight of hand here, just because the overall reload speed is very slow on the CX-9. I feel like I can get caught in a variety of situations where I'm just like pretty much, pants down, like not reloaded. And I don't like that in any capacity. And the sleight of hand just speeds up your reload exponentially. And it's really good. So this is my full build here for the CX-9. Super happy this thing actually got a pretty sizable buff. It's really good after the update. Definitely check it out. Next up, we're going to be taking a look here at the Marco 5. We got to throw this in here in this top 5 because this has got some incredible mobility to it, and it is a really solid option. I believe this is a really solid meta contender here to get in that top 5, so we got to throw it in there. First thing, muzzle, we're going to go through on the recoil booster to increase that fire rate. In the barrel section, we're actually going to go here and use the Amaretto 342mm 04P barrel. This is going to make this thing super accurate, controllable. I really like that. You're going to lose a little bit of mobility here, but you're not going to lose too much considering how we're going to build the rest of this gun. It's going to be pretty dang fast when you're moving around. After that, in the barrel section, we go through on the Mark VI skeletal here for ADS speed and movement speed. I think back in the day, I tried running the SMLE grip on this thing, but you lose that ADS speed now, and I'm not sure when they updated that, if that was always the case, but I don't believe you lost ADS speed. I thought you gained it back in the day, but definitely not anymore. So we go for the Mark VI skeletal here, more or less exclusively on this gun. Magazine, you guys have a couple options in here, but more or less we're going to go throw on the 8mm Nambu 64 round drum. This is going to increase your hipfire accuracy, recoil control, magazine ammo capacity, but don't worry about too much of those cons here because having that 64 round mag is very good for this gun. Ammunition, we're going to go for subsonic here. This is going to pretty much keep us off the minimap. Super good option for any of these Vanguard SMGs, to be honest with you guys. That you go for subsonic or lengthened is the other option that I would go for, but subsonic is a great way or a great thing to have on this. Rear grip here, we're gonna go through on the taped grip for aiming stability, movement speed, weapon swap quickness, and of course that overall sprint to fire speed. This is a really great option. I absolutely love the taped grip on this gun. Optic, we're gonna go through on the slate reflector here just because the iron sights, they're not really like bad, but they're not really good. And I pretty much just find having the slate reflector on this makes it incredibly accurate, super easy to be able to, identify my targets. And I really like the slate reflector. Stock, we're gonna go for the Amaretto FR, initial firing recoil, recovery, of course, ADS speed and movement speed. Super good to run on this gun in combination with all these other attachments. It just benefits everything very nicely. And then for our perks now, what we're gonna do is we're gonna go throw on Frenzy. This is gonna give us health regeneration after kills. It's kind of like having quick fix, but as a perk on your gun as opposed to on your loadout. And that does come in pretty handy when you're going against those, duos, trios, and squads, which is primarily what I play apart from, I do enjoy my solos, but even then, sometimes you get a lot of people challenging you, and it can be very advantageous to have Frenzy on here to be able to get that health regen after your kills. And then perk 2, we're gonna go for quick for that overall increase in sprint speed, and this is my full build here for the Marco 5. Hope y'all enjoy this one. Absolutely love the Marco. I mean, it's a really good SMG. Up next is gonna be a gun that I personally get a lot of comments about because I use it in quite a bit of my gameplays right now, and that's gonna be the MP40. This is probably one of the most meta SMGs to use, probably arguably the best one in Warzone right now. And it's just really solid after the update. So I got to give you guys a build for it. Muzzle category, we're gonna go through on the recoil booster for that overall increase in fire rate. Barrel section, we're going to keep the Krausnik 317mm 04B barrel. We used to run the short barrel, but pretty much after the update, we switched back to using the Krausnik barrel. I really like using this thing, and I mean, I've been having incredible success with running the Krausnik. Underbarrel section, we're going to go through on the Mark VI skeletal here, just to kind of bolster our overall, movement speed ability. We really like the Mark VI on this thing, or the Mark V, whatever you want to call it. I mean, or Mark VI. I mean, it doesn't even matter. People always like to mess around with the Roman numerals, and I've got a comment about that. I'm like, I just call it the Mark VI. Magazine, we're gonna go through on the 7.62 Gorenko 45 round mag. We like the Gorenko. This actually got a buff here within the update, making it even like better than it already was. So that's why we definitely have to stick with this. Ammunition, we're gonna throw on subsonic. I mean, of course, got to keep us off the mini map. Rear grip, we're gonna go through on the taped grip here. This is a maximum sort of mobility rear grip. We really like that for the MP40. Optic, we're gonna go throw on the slate reflector here. Also, I should say that the iron sights for the Krausnik are really solid. So if you guys want to, you could go use either of these bottom two iron sights, the ISO2M or 1M. Doesn't really matter. You can use that. I've had incredible success with that. And I've also switched it over to using the slate reflector. It's kind of up to you guys, but I mean, we can just throw on these iron sights and pretty much call it a day. And you'll get an ADS benefit as opposed to the slate reflector, where you pretty much won't get any cons, but you're not going to get that benefit. Stock, we're going to go for the Krausnik 33M folding, sprint to fire speed, movement speed, real solid option. I don't really ever go for the remove stock anymore. I just go for the folding. And then in perk 1, what we're going to do is we're just going to go throw on momentum here for movement speed after kills. You guys can also throw on brace if you really want to, but there's like literally no recoil with this thing, so I kind of find that a little bit redundant. And steady doesn't do you too much, at least with this gun, so momentum is pretty much like your best option here for this build. And then perk 2, we're gonna go for quick for that overall increase in sprint speed. So this is my full build here for the MP40. Super good, and I mean, this is arguably the most meta SMG to use right now in Warzone. All right, next up, we're gonna take a look here at the Armaguerra, whatever you want to call it. This is a gun that pretty much dominated Warzone here for the last like couple months, and it's still going to be super dominant even after a couple different changes to it. But let's get into an updated build for the Arma. So first thing we're going to go throw on, of course, is the recoil booster. Got to increase that fire rate, pretty much a standard attachment in all these Vanguard SMGs. Barrel section, we're going to go through on the precision barrel here, the last one. This is really solid, and I personally am a big fan of running this barrel on this gun. It ends up being super easy to be able to use, and I absolutely love that it makes it more controllable, increase that headshot damage, and increase that bullet velocity. Really good. Underbarrel section, we go for the Mark VI skeletal here, ADS speed and movement speed. Magazine, we're actually going to go throw on the 8mm Kurz 64 round mag. This is going to bolster our overall damage and everything like that, and they kind of try to nerf this a little bit, so we're definitely got to bump up our damage, and that's what the Kurz is going to be really good for. So definitely go throw on the Kurz. Ammunition, we're just going to throw on subsonic here. Got to keep this off the mini map. Rear grip, we're gonna go throw on the taped rear grip here. Got to increase that overall mobility. Optic, pretty standard in here as well. Got to throw on the slate reflector. Iron sights really aren't bad, but they're not great. You can use it for the ground loot, but otherwise, I mean, as soon as you get your loadout, you want to have the slate reflector on it. No reason to run the iron sights on this thing. Stock, we're gonna go for the Amaretto TA skeletal here. This is gonna be huge for overall like strafe ability, and we really like to be able to strafe around a little bit with this gun. Perk 1, we're actually going to go throw on sleight of hand. You can either throw on that or you can throw on hard scope. If you find like the recoil is going to be really difficult to control, hard scope is really going to stabilize that out. Otherwise, sleight of hand is going to be a really good option, but probably for a majority of people out there, hard scope is going to be the way to go. Perk 2, though, we're actually going to go throw on course quick here for the overall increase in sprint speed, and this is my full build here. This is my full updated build for the Armaguerra. So absolutely love this gun. I haven't been using it too much since the update. Been going pretty crazy on the MP40, but still really good. Last but not least here, we got to throw on the Type 100. This is one of those guns that kind of gets overlooked, large in part just because the magazine size, and otherwise it's got pretty much one of the fastest TTKs in the entirety of Warzone for the SMG category. So I mean, it's definitely worth actually using. First thing, muzzle, we're gonna go throw on the recoil booster, that increase in fire rate. Barrel section, we're gonna go throw on the last barrel here, the Warabuchi 134mm rapid barrel. Got to increase that fire rate and damage range. Two great things, but it's gonna, of course, have a negative or a con of the actual accuracy, damage, and ADS speed. Don't worry about that. This is still gonna have like the fastest TTK even with this barrel on there. Underbarrel section, what we're gonna do is we're gonna go throw on the SG98 compact here for that increase in ADS, walking speed and walking movement speed, and then of course that reduced scope sway and gun bob. Kind of misspoke there for a second, but the SG98 compact is definitely the way to go on this thing. magazine, what we're gonna do is we're gonna go through on the Russian short 36 round mag. You have to run this specific magazine in order to make the Type 100 really good. So pretty much like stay away from the Kurz 48. You have to go for the Russian short 36 to make it super good. Ammunition, got to go for subsonic. Rear grip, we're actually just going to go throw on, where is it at, the grooved grip here. This is going to make it super good for, you know, strafing, aim locking movement speed, horizontal recoil control, ADS-5 move speed, and aiming stability. You definitely need a little bit more recoil control out of this gun, considering it's going to bounce around a tad. That's why we're speaking of, you know, next, which is we're not going to be using the iron sights. We have to, as a mandatory thing, run a slate reflector on this gun to be able to make sure we can actually see out of the end of the gun what we're firing at, because those iron sights are going to bounce around too much. It's going to make your life kind of miserable to be able to use those things. Stock section, we're actually going to go for the Warabuchi grip folding here, aim locking movement speed, aim locking steadiness, and of course that initial firing recoil. You're going to lose a little bit of that sprint to fire speed and hit bar accuracy, but to be honest with you guys, it is well worth the trade-off, considering this can help stabilize this gun out even more so, and I definitely like that. Perk 1, we're actually going to go for a sleight of hand to that increase in reload quickness, primarily just because it's, I mean, you have 36 rounds in your mag. If you're, no matter what you're playing, having a faster reload with a shorter magazine, you know, size, you know, being in the 30s, I mean, if you have 40, 50, 60, that's not that much of an issue, but having 36 rounds can be quite, you know, an issue when it comes to taking out multiple people at a time. So being able to get that quick reload off is going to save your butt more often than not, and I found great success running sleight of hand as opposed to one of these other things up here, which can definitely be very useful, but I like having a faster reload on this gun. And then in perk 2, we're going to go for quick for that overall increase in sprint speed. So this is my full builds here for the Type 100. That has been my top 5 SMGs. If you guys enjoyed today's video, give it a like, subscribe, notifications turned on, and I'll see you guys all later. Just remember, don't triple cap, don't be Randy, and I'm out. Peace.